So you can't just look like everyone else and think you're going to get in like some of these very competitive markets.
And you've even seen some of the CISOs on LinkedIn say, I will not be at this conference. Please stop emailing me. Here are the people that you need to be talking to. I have been there, done that. I'm not going to this event. I will not be at your after party.
What's next for IT? In today's economy, technology touches every aspect of the day-to-day operations of business. There has never been more pressure on IT to deliver for our organizations. So what can we expect over the next decade? We need to think differently about how we approach our work to continue to thrive into the future. This requires all of us to be intentional in how we look at our role going forward. Smart IT is an approach to getting the important things done by transforming the way we think, work, and lead. And now, let's disrupt the status quo, simplify the complex, and reduce risk the smart IT way.
Everybody, welcome to another episode of the Smart IT Podcast. And joining me again is Katherine. To my audience, you may look familiar. And we'd like to introduce Lindsey to the show today. Good afternoon,
Hello.
Lindsey.
Hi, how are you?
Doing fantastic.
Good.
So me and Katherine has been tackling the challenges of the buyer-seller experience.
Mm-hmm.
So we've noticed over the last couple of years, there's been a lot of efforts from marketing departments, from people selling products and selling services. Sometimes might be getting a little stale here. So your old traditional conferences with the booths and giving out free pens and koozies and a lot of email call blasts, LinkedIn messages, Facebook ads. So we figured we wanted to kind of talk about this because on the Smart IT Podcast, we take it from the perspective of IT and IT leadership and ways that the market itself can, in this case, help out. So looking for what do the people on the side of the other side of the buying process do to help improve the experience. It's everything from the brand recognition, how do they stand out, how do they find the right type of prospects, right type of customers, good product fit. But there's a lot of pieces that goes into this. I said, let me check in with Lindsey. So I know you got a lot of experience in the marketing field, from everything from running these integrated campaigns to helping set up local events, regional events, webinars. So I think we want to start off just talking about kind of the state of marketing in general, Lindsey. You've been in the field for quite a while. Get your thoughts on what you're seeing out there.
In my opinion, people are overwhelmed. And I think the majority of that is that there are so many companies that are targeting the same people over and over and over again, and they're fatigued. So you have to go outside of the box from time to time to consider a new campaign, consider different messaging. Messaging for one territory doesn't necessarily work for the messaging of another territory. And it's really just understanding your audience and who you're talking to see how to recreate some of that messaging and push that into the territory that you're looking for. And for me, my former experience as a data analyst, I use the data a whole lot more than some marketing folks would, especially in the regional marketing field, where they're focused more on the event and the success of the event. But really, for me, the event is the culmination of everything that you have put together prior to that. It's the campaign, it's the targeting, it's the lead generation, it's the relationship building. All of that has to be done first, and then you put that event together in the end. And I think because there's so much fatigue, people are what they call spraying and praying. Like they're just throwing darts at people to see if something sticks. And hopefully it's a multi-million-dollar contract, right? Never happens that way. But in my opinion, the foundation starts with a relationship. And you build upon that. And then once you have built that relationship and the trust with your prospect and your customers, that's when you can start building in some of the new products you have or new releases, or, hey, we've got a new message that we'd like to show you. And it just kind of, it grows from there. And that's the important part, is just making sure you understand who you're talking to. a lot of salespeople will go out and they'll just sell at you, but they haven't ever identified what that challenge is for your prospect. They have an obligation to the firm. They have a incentive. They have a spiff. They have something that they're trying to earn money out of, and they're solely focusing on that and not necessarily what the challenge is of the customer. So that relationship and communication and understanding of what exactly you're trying to help the customer solve for is the most important thing.
So I think that pray and spray, if you multiply that by potentially 10, 15, 20, 30, 40 different providers all calling into the exact same person,
That's right.
probably is one of the reasons why it's driving the potential buyer to hide themselves, right? To shield from the phone calls and the LinkedIn messages and maybe trying to walk past your booth at a conference. So it's a lot of defensive mechanism in place because of this. And then you also mentioned something else interesting about the sales cycle. So let's talk about this integration between the marketing efforts and the sales efforts. I think sometimes those two entities don't play nice in some organizations.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. A lot of marketing folks don't understand the sales cycle, and there's a disconnect between the two teams. And that's one of the things that I kind of pride myself on, is bringing those two groups together. And that is making sure we understand what the boots on the ground are hearing, what they're seeing, what people are talking about. And it's not only that, but it's using, technology such as Sixth Sense or any kind of intent data. If you're trying to build a campaign around a certain, subject or whatever it may be, a spiff that you have going around, you could be focusing people in Austin that aren't even interested in this technology. So you're wasting your efforts, and it's just, let's talk. So what may be happening at the firm level is not necessarily what's happening at the regional level. And that's one of the things I love about regional marketing, is it's like, okay, we've got an objective. I get that, but let's focus it down to what the people are actually needing and looking at. And you have to talk amongst the two groups in order to figure that out.
There's
I don't know,
so much
Katherine,
good
you have an
information.
interesting perspective on what you do.
Yeah, I just wanted to say what Lindsey said. Like, as a marketer, I love interviewing salespeople because they're the ones with that face-to-face time with the customers. So they see the questions, they can pick up the nuances of when we brought this, their face lit up, they got excited, they asked more questions. So as a marketer, if I'm putting content out there to attract more people who want to actually talk to sales, or at least look at the website, or they'll go to the webinar or whatever, bringing some of those things we know they're already interested in or care about or concerned about up front, I mean, it just helps me create better content.
Whatever that thing is, it has to have some type of relevant content to gain at least initial attention. So let's talk about how we might think about gaining that attention a little bit differently than what we've seen in the past here. Yeah, so Lindsey, this attention challenge we have, right? And we got something interesting to sell, to provide to the marketplace, but just that initial phase of how do we get the attention of the potential buyer? And as you mentioned before, there's a lot of different people you could try to sell to, right? CIO, CISO, maybe a compliance team. There's a lot of different personas inside of each organization. So how do you approach getting that attention?
Puppies.
Yeah,
Get puppies at the booth.
Nice.
That'll get anybody to come over and talk to you. No, I'm kind of kidding, but you have to think outside of the box. And puppies are one that I've seen over and over again used at conferences. And I think one that we did that was actually really interesting was a NASCAR event. And to me, it was really successful because it puts people in a room that you have something exciting to talk about. You're kind of in there for a while. You can go and come as you please. It's not anything in your face. There's nothing big content wise that you're looking at, maybe some signage, maybe some swag, but it's more of a, you come and go, you can talk about somebody, you can learn about something from somebody else, you meet new people. And again, it's just that process of communication. Talk to your sales team on the ground and bring the puppies.
Interesting. That's kind of fascinating. I'm trying to think about this. So I wonder if a lot of solution providers and consultants and partners are out there are spending too much time and effort targeting, like you said, the wrong people, and literally don't realize, get enough feedback from the field team to say, let's direct some more down. So I'm wondering what type of like metrics or dashboards or feedback systems they have in place that would give them an indication besides like what a slow pipeline. Because I would think a slow pipeline would say, hey, maybe we can't target the same 2 or 3 personas over and over again. So like if you're in one of those meetings, Lindsey, and you're a CMO of a service provider who got a new cool solution out there, and you got thousands of existing customers, and 6 months later they're still looking like we can't get pipeline. Do you think most people would kind of get the message that, hey, let's try to start to target more people and in different levels of the organization, or is it kind of still a hard sell?
Oh, I think within 30 days, I think you have to constantly keep revising your campaigns and your messaging to make sure that that is sticking to, the wording. It could be a one term. It could be a, I don't know, an ad on Google instead of a LinkedIn social media post. And a lot of this, unfortunately, costs money. And that's one of the biggest issues with marketing, is that a lot of companies don't feel that they need to put enough budget towards marketing. And that's probably where a lot of your budget needs to be spent, is with marketing, because there are so many things that you can do, but without money, you can't. And so you're left with the boots on the ground. You're left with people in marketing that may not be experienced in content, specifically writing blogs, or a copywriter of any kind. I mean, that takes a very special technical writer to understand the market and how to write some of that stuff. So a lot of marketing people, or a lot of companies, I should say, are slashing marketing budgets, and they're having people do more than one job. I remember a time when a girlfriend of mine was like a creative director, and then they all of a sudden wanted her to do videography. She'd never done videography in her life, but because they were so resource, what's the word I'm looking for, deprived, she had to go do video, and it basically set her up for failure. And so you have to make sure you have the right resources in that place, in order to make sure that everything is going off the way that you need it to. But yeah, I think within 30 days, depending on what automation system you use, you can see where the trends are leaning.
Interesting. And Katherine, I know you see this a lot with your clients who come to you on that whole messaging, and how do you target that specific person or different persons? What are your thoughts on that?
Right. Well, today there's so many decision makers, and I think it's so interesting you point out that, a lot of CISOs are looking to their directors or other people in their organizations. And what are some of the numbers? Like, 20 stakeholders. So if they're all going to be having these conversations, how do you create messaging that they can talk about? So we already have that. That's easily done with story or some other tactics. But I think you're right. Like, knowing to see the signs if something's not working. And a lot of times it's just that you sound so much like everyone else. And so let's say I just read a report today. I'm trying to catch up on like my latest reports. It's the new year, 2025. We've had 2024. And was at IBM and Palo Alto. They did like a survey, and they were saying that, I had my notes. What was it? Like 83 vendors? No, 83 like solutions. And I forget the size of companies they surveyed. It was like, 83 different security solutions from 29 vendors. That's just the ones they're using, not to mention the ones that are trying to get in. Right? So if you're all sending out the same type of videos, the same webinars, the same events with the same messaging, or the same, this is all about AI, right? We know that's the whole theme, is like, AI in cybersecurity, AI in this industry, AI in that. If you don't differentiate at all, then they're only going to fall back on their top 3 considerations for a solution. And they're only going to look at what those vendors are saying about AI. So if you want to break in, we have seen a pattern of, you need to talk about the important things, but you need to do it in a totally different way from what other vendors are doing, right? So then you might get into that initial consideration package. So a different way, different topics, a different point of view, something to change it up, because back to our original conversation, there is that fatigue. Just look like everyone else and think you're going to get in like some of these very competitive markets.
And you've even seen some of the CISOs on LinkedIn say, I will not be at this conference. Please stop emailing me. Here are the people that you need to be talking to. I, have been there, done that. I'm not going to this event. I will not be at your after party. They keep saying this over and over again and people still hit it. I mean, they're going to eventually unsubscribe, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's what's eventually going to happen. And a lot of that you see when people are buying lists. And when you go to a conference or a trade show, that's part of the perk. You get a list of the attendees, not always every information, but then immediately after that conference, all 4,800 people or 300 people, however large the conference was, there are now automated messages, emails, and campaigns that are hitting those people depending on which box they fall into. So some people are very even hesitant to go to the conference because they're like, I don't even want to be bothered. Or people won't, they'll sign up with a fake name, they'll sign up with fake information, all of that stuff so that they aren't, contacted after the fact. So it is hard to reach those. And that's why I always go back to the relationship. It is a long-term dating relationship that sales has with these customers. And the turnover with sales also causes, some friction there because they've built this relationship with this trusted advisor who then, the big layoffs that have been happening, I mean, that causes big issues. Like, okay, so now we've got an issue with the technology and now my friend is gone and now we've broken up and I don't know where they're going. And so, I mean, it goes back to the relationship and you have to build that trust. And once you build that trust, they're going to know you're not going to bring me anything that wouldn't benefit my company. So therefore, I'm going to, buy your new product. I'm going to invest in new technology for my company because you're telling me this is what I need and I trust you. So really it comes down to the relationship. So if you're getting some messaging from that trusted relationship, you're most likely going to listen to it and to open it and click and all the things that marketers want you to do.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not like the person face to face is almost your brand itself. So if that salesperson struggles, yeah. So they don't establish it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And that brings up an interesting point, Lindsey, about the turnover. So if the salesperson provides a great brand, say for 5 years, and then they leave, does their replacement provide the exact same type of experience? And if not, then maybe the team starts to get frustrated with the new person and really doesn't attach itself to the company brand. So it's almost like it could be in a bad way attached to the individual and heroics, which isn't what the CEO of a company want to hear is, hey, I got a marketing department. I got this great brand. Everybody should know about me. And now you're telling me it could be dependent on somebody leaving at the field level.
100%. Happens all the time.
So how do you make it almost, I don't want to say replaceable, but if you have 5 different reps over 5 different years, that could be a bad sign, right? So when the customer is looking like, is this organization reliable? Does the website look good? Is materially send me relevant? Is the delivery of the service that we do buy good, right? We really talked about maybe the product is great or the service is great, but maybe a vendor or a partner doesn't do a great job of implementation, then that could kill your brand right there. So let's talk about, so like you say, the CMO is getting a lot of heat and they're the first one to get the budget slashed, but it actually may not be their fault, right? It could be customer service, product, sales team. Let's talk about these other portions of the organization that the CMO really can't control.
Katherine, you want to take that?
What was that? Well, I think, does anyone really have that much data? Do they really know? Is it just easy to say, because marketing, so we have a science, but it's also an art, and it's not as simple or black and white as other roles, I guess. Like 2 + 2 is 4. And so if someone in finance messes up that number, it's that typo they did. Underpaid something, overpaid, it's very black and white. But with something like that, unless you see such a drop, and at this part of the experience, we had a bunch of salespeople leave at this month, and we also know it's next month, a bunch of our subscriptions dropped. And you might kind of see that it's more on that side than so much false marketing. And so when we hear that a lot, right? The false mark. So as marketers, we kind of want to glam up and look all this. But by the time they talk to the sales engineers, it's like, well, it depends. It depends. Well, we actually can't do that unless this happens. And so there is a disconnect that can make it almost like, what was it called? Selling vaporwares. But by the time they actually talk to somebody, they're like, oh, that was more marketing fluff talk than so false expectations getting to that point. That could happen. So if you see those big trends, I think you would really know what's happening and the CMO not get the full blame. But what have you seen, Lindsey? How do you see where there's issues and fix it up?
Yeah. It's hard. It's hard to measure marketing sometimes, right? Because you can do all sorts of different things. And if you don't have the software or the buying power to get that data of the clicks and the buys and the who's looking at what. I mean, I know Sixth Sense is extremely expensive for some companies, especially smaller companies that are trying to figure out where their audience is and how to make things better. It's hard to measure marketing when the disconnect between marketing and sales is there, because the sales team will always get, the credit because they're the ones that they're signing on the dotted line. But one thing that we did and created at a prior role of mine was the accountability. We've set up this particular engagement for the sales team, and from that engagement, you start watching the pipeline. You start that lead generation and you can watch it go down from there. So because we included them in this particular engagement, whether it be a thought leadership dinner or a happy hour or whatever it may be, we can then watch the trend without all of the big automation software and the marketing stuff that you would need. But just even in Salesforce, you can watch that pipeline grow, and you can see them. The origination of that lead came back to marketing, and it was an engagement that we had created or something to that effect. So you can kind of watch that. But a lot of the clicks and messaging and things like that, like there's just so much that constantly happens. One day it could be skyrocketing and the next day it drops, but you didn't change anything. It's just the fact that you put something out that day and you had a spike in views or a spike in clicks, and then it drops back off. It's like, okay, well, it hit a few people today, but it didn't do anything after that. So you can kind of watch the flow of how things go and see where you can make some adjustments. And it takes time. A sales cycle is what averages 18 months. Marketing is very similar. You start a campaign, it could take a while. Sure, you're going to see differences, but I think within 30 days, you're going to see how the trend is going to end up. But you can also adjust that along the way. Within 30 days, maybe you change a term. Within 30 days, maybe you try a different platform. Within 30 days, the next 30 days, you do something different and see how the return each 30 days changed the trajectory of that sale and how much was influenced from what marketing did to ending that sale. But again, I always go back to the relationship. A lot of the times it's just going to be built on the relationship, and you're going to meet that person sitting at a bar, over lunch.
Mm-hmm. Integrity never goes out of style. If I trust you, I know you have integrity, and I know you're not going to sell me something I don't need, right? Or lie to me like that. That's just never going to go out of style, no matter how much AI or anything else we throw into this mix of marketing and sales. Yeah.
Yeah. 100%.
Well, let's ask an interesting question here. Can we mention some data? So some of this data is internal, right? You can get it from the sales team. You can do some internal tools, but everybody keeps talking about this intent data, and people like Sixth Sense. So that comes with a dollar amount. So is a marketing team, say the CMO, chief marketing officer, wants to go out and acquire some software like this, and its price tag is very large. So now if they go out and go to a website for Sixth Sense, guess what happens? The Sixth Sense marketing team sees it and starts to bombard the CMO of this other company. So now they become the buyer in that situation. So I wonder how well CMOs look at the market themselves when they're being pitched constantly as well. Because when that one click will generate emails and phone calls, and then if they can't get through the CMO, maybe somebody else in the marketing department started to get hit up, say, hey, you guys want to look at some intent data or a platform that helps get you all this data so you know where it's breaking down in your campaigns. So let's talk about the roles being reversed. So Lindsey, I don't know if have you ever been like targeted yourself either with an ad from Facebook or LinkedIn, say, hey Lindsey, I noticed your manager or your manager might find this helpful. Do you want to take a meeting? A quick 5-minute meeting.
Oh, there it goes again.
Yeah.
I actually had a very clever salesperson from a marketing automation software that I won't mention, but I had started a new job in my past and got contacted immediately by saying, when I posted that, I had this new job or whatever, got a message on LinkedIn and it said, I'm your account manager for such and such. Well, I assumed they already had this marketing software installed. It was good.
Very good.
And I was like, oh, it's so nice to meet you, looking forward to working with you, blah, blah, blah. And then it was just boom. After that, she nailed it. We got it. But we were already familiar with it, right? I mean, I already assumed that this company had it downloaded anyway, or had it installed anyway. So, but that was before I ever even walked in the door of the company. And so it was good. It was really slick.
So you liked
But
it.
yeah.
You liked
Oh,
it?
I loved it.
So some people don't like that approach though. So I've seen on LinkedIn, I'm on LinkedIn quite a bit, and some people hate that approach and they feel deceived and they feel like that was, so it just shows how everyone's kind of different. You got to be gutsy.
I'm not saying I didn't feel that way, but in the end, it worked.
She's like, respect.
And for that, she gets all the respect in the world. Yes. It was very
clever.
And
it worked in that scenario. So in that case,
she was our account manager. So she wasn't lying, I guess.
Right.
But yeah, it was pretty slick. But LinkedIn is definitely not somewhere like on messages that I would attempt to reach out to people, just because, again, LinkedIn is another platform I think that's getting overworked and overwhelmed, and there's so much information out there.
Yeah.
I do my own, searching and all of that on LinkedIn on a daily basis. So there is a lot of good information out there, but there's so much. Yeah. There's so much, and people are adding photos just to get attention to something that doesn't even refer to what they're talking about, but it's just to get in your algorithm. Yep. And then once you get somebody to click, then you've gotten that algorithm. So then you constantly see it over and over and over again. But sometimes I look at a sponsored ad and I'm like, how did I get this? And I have to think back. I'm like, because I looked at that. It's the same thing with Google. It's the same thing with your email. Anything that's coming through, you've clicked somewhere somehow, or you have accepted, third-party communications or something of some sort. But there's a lot.
On that note, we were talking about budget earlier and how it's a lot of times marketing, right, gets the cuts, and how they're making more people do more than one job than they were before. Let's condense it, right? What I have noticed, and maybe it's because, so I am a marketer, kind of salesy person in my role, but I do look at a lot of tech companies, LinkedIn, I connect with them because I want to learn from people that aren't even my clients for other projects I do on the side, right? So I'm connecting with all these people. I get a lot of those DM messages that are sponsored, and they're treating me like I'm the IT director or the cybersecurity director. They're trying to sell to me, but guess what? You can't opt out of it. At least I haven't found immediate. It's like, do you want the ebook? Yes or no? And I try to let these people know, hey, I'm not your buyer. Like, I'm totally getting the wrong thing. Yeah. They won't let you. I've even tried to request a connection with some of the people it says it's coming from, because it'll say it's from a person. Trying to let them know. They just look at my profile, but they don't accept or message me back. And I'm like, you're literally sponsoring messages to me, but now you as the person. It's so weird. But you know how much money they're probably wasting doing that? Trying to cut a short way, right, to messaging people with these sponsored ads that look like they're from someone, sponsored DMs. But it's like, bro, you're just wasting money on me. I guess I'll see how your marketing.
You were on that list from that conference.
I didn't even go to the conference. This was probably just like connecting with a few people from that company, or maybe going to their website, because I just want to learn more about the tech because of the kind of stuff I write and who my clients are. And they're treating me like I'm an IT cybersecurity buyer. director, VP level. And I'm trying to let you know, stop targeting me. You're wasting money.
Well, and
Hire me,
that goes
maybe.
back to doing your research. You have
Yeah.
got to do your research on these people. Make sure that in Salesforce, you have the right contact, you have the right information, you have the right title. I mean, I don't know how many times we have sent out emails and it comes back undeliverable. And I'm like, oh, they gave a fake name or they gave the wrong name or something to that effect. But it's when you buy these lists, you're targeting people that have no business receiving your information or your content.
Yeah.
And you have wasted thousands among thousands of dollars hoping something, you throw a dart at
Yep.
16,000 people on a list and you hope it sticks. And it will never work out that way.
Yeah. So I hope,
What a
I
amazing.
hope
So,
we'll see if it changes. I hope it changes because I hate seeing companies waste money, especially when you see at the same times like the layoffs.
mhm.
And
Yeah.
you're like,
Yeah.
it's
But there's a lot
frustrating.
of companies that have to show, these salespeople have to show pipeline.
Hmm.
And if that's one way to show pipeline, I mean, sure, but it's not going to go anywhere. So you're kind of wasting their time as well, by putting in a false lead or something that is never going to end up anywhere in the first place. And then that goes back to marketing, where marketing's got this list of contacts within Salesforce, and we're targeting these people and they could care less. So there is a massive disconnect between marketing and sales. And I do feel, I shouldn't say that there's a lot of companies that cut marketing necessarily, but they do try to do more with less money. But I think some companies are really starting to understand that they have to put the budget into marketing. And there's a lot of companies that will try to do a lot of things for less money, right? But some of the more important campaigns and ads and conferences that make sense are where they should be putting their money. And there's a lot of conferences that don't make sense that people are paying hundreds of thousands of dollars to be at, and you're getting no ROI from that. It's a brand awareness thing, but you can do so many other things with brand awareness than spending $100,000 on a booth rental. So,
And no,
And that's
no hate on
interesting.
the companies that are trying to save money or do more with their marketing. You should, unless you're trying to be a media house,
mhm,
a content house, like you have some other type of business model where that makes sense.
right.
Like that's part of it's part of the job. That's part of the business is doing better with what you have, more
Mhm.
efficiency. So I think it's just hard to do, especially as you grow, the market's changing. I am seeing an interesting trend. And I think we're going to see more and more of it. Do you remember how, like, just even a few decades ago, I mean, you had your newspaper ads, your TV ads, your radio ads, right? And it was really like expensive to be in the marketing game. And then people started doing, remember when like even a company that blogged was like, what? They're on social media? Like it was you kind of had to talk your company into doing it, right? Like you want us to update these articles and it's educational, right? We're actually teaching them instead of just selling to them. And that became a big thing. And now that's what we're seeing in the market is everyone's education. We got everyone doing, not everyone, but the webinars, the podcasts, the blog posts, the events, like everyone's like, yes, we get it now. The thought leader, the educational, being that trusted advisor before they're paying us is the way. All right. The next one I think is going to be because like you said, the fatigue of it all, everyone's a thought leader and everyone's an influencer. That's why we're seeing more of the entertainment come back. Not just like the NASCAR events, but those kind of things. Those have been there a while, but those still work sometimes. But even just the way they make their educational content. Look at Palo Alto Network's Super Bowl commercial this last couple of years. You know what they're doing with Precision AI. Some of the others trying to take a more fun, entertaining approach
Mm.
than just the educational. They're mixing it up. So I think we're going to see more of
Well,
that.
you're having a turnover of generation too, to
Yeah.
where the, this this generation growing up are the technology kids. I mean, they grew up with a phone in their hand. I know my son did.
Yeah.
And so that's how he educates himself is through videos.
Mm-hmm.
It's through entertainment. It's, he's not reading,
Yeah.
but which is sad because it's quite funny at times when we give him something to read and It's like, do you need a video for me to explain this to you? Because that's how they learn. They're learning what life is all about through videos, right or wrong. That's what it is. And so you're right, that entertainment value, just finding new ways to access the younger generations that are coming into this world is how you have to do it. And that will fluctuate. So the thought leadership was probably huge, and we did that, I don't know, 10 years ago, where we were like, we built a podcast room in our building so that we could start doing podcasts. And this was, I don't know, 10 years ago. So, and we were just like you said, Katherine, like, what? We're going to do a podcast about what? And it became very successful. I mean, people wanted to hear from the experts and they want the thought leadership. And so a lot of what we did in my past is, sure, we have this entertaining portion of this engagement, but it comes with thought leadership. So we put the two together, and it's not just everybody's going out for a happy hour. It's now we're going to have a thought leadership piece to it. So you kind of you knock two birds out with one stone. So I do think I agree with both of those that's a transition that's coming for sure and is already here in effect.
And you're so right. The thought leadership isn't going to go away. You're going to always have to be that. But just putting that out alone, especially if you're not a leader in your industry. Like, again, we kind of talked about like, well, if you're always in the top 3 vendors, you can maybe get away with only doing thought leadership because they're always going to go to you. But if you're trying to break in and be in a consideration where you're not normally consideration, it might not be for your thought leadership unless it's so drastic that no one else is doing it. Or it's going to be something entertainment where they might not even be considering you. They see like, oh, that's cool. That's funny. Oh, I relate to that so much. That's exactly what my team goes through when we're trying to deal with that problem. Oh, wait, you also offer this? Oh, we've been using them, but I see that you're doing this a little differently. Maybe I will look at them.
And I think a huge portion of this that we're not talking about at the moment is that, does sales know about all of this? Are we communicating with sales our new tactics, strategies to use, messaging to take to their customers and their clients? Do they have access to all of this information at their fingertips so that if they're in a meeting and they're talking about one solution and this client or customer brings up another one, then they can show an ad, they can show a video, they can show, oh yeah, we do, like you were just saying, oh yeah, we do have that. Let me show you. And they can immediately access it instead of searching all over the intranet or their file systems or whatever it may be. It has to be at the ready for when that conversation occurs, because you never know when it's going to happen. It may be sitting next to some guy at a bar who happens to be in the same industry, happens to be, oh gosh, we've got that. Let me talk to you about that. You never know when that's going to happen, and having the access and making sure marketing is communicating with sales and providing them those materials at their fingertips, whether it be a podcast or, hey, check out this podcast, on your time, or maybe on the ride home or the train ride back to the office, whatever it may be. Here's some information for you, and just leave it at that. It doesn't have to be a sale. It's just, here's some information, and you can be a thought leader in that way. You don't have to push it on everybody, but it's, hey, if you're interested, sounds like this might be a good fit for you. Check this out and contact me if you have any questions. It can be as simple as that.
I think
but we have to do a better job at getting sales the information that they need, rather than just, sending them out into the world and to this event or this conference without any information and any objectives, I guess, with it. Here are the companies you need to target while you're there. Here are the 3 that are coming by your booth. Here's what you need to know about them. Here's all the information in Salesforce about them. Here's where they are in the pipeline. Here's where we need them to be. Maybe it's somebody in California, but your territory is Texas, but they have a representative that is attending, but it's not your market. It's not your territory. It's not your client, but it may help a colleague. And then in turn, maybe your colleague from Texas is going out to an event in California. They're going to do the same thing for you. So it's a lot of communication and helping each other out for the greater good, rather than a selfish reason as to, well, I can't make that sale, so I'm just not going to talk to them.
I think every salesperson listening to this right now is probably like applauding, wishing they can send that segment to the marketing team, because it's so It's so true, especially on the sales enablement, at least from what I've heard. And you bring up an interesting point on just colleagues helping each other, Lindsey. But I've talked to salespeople where they said, like you said, you're sitting next to them at a bar, on an airplane. You could be at the pool. You never know. Like, if you're a true salesperson, you have that mindset. Like, you never know when you're going to meet your next client.
That's right.
And so they're already in that mindset. And they said, Katherine, I've been in these situations so long. But sometimes I'm even trying to think of like a recent movie that's really popular, like a series, and bring that up and say, hey, remember that scene? That's kind of what our technology does. Or like, have you had that happen? Like, they're trying to find pop culture references, not something that's like a hardcore case study, right? Because they're like, yeah, that might work well for our marketing team in certain scenarios, but I'm in this other world sometimes where you don't want to hit them with this really deep marketing stuff. But like you said, Lindsey, like a fun podcast episode you might find interesting or helpful, or this you might find helpful, like having that range of content where they can bring in, because sometimes they are reaching for straws on how to segue from, okay, they're sharing this with me, we started this conversation, what's a really easy, natural way to introduce what we're doing?
And I know we haven't mentioned like a research team, or even not a research team. Think about the product or service, right? There's a product team. Somebody supposedly went out and created something that supposedly somebody in the market would want to buy because it solves some type of problem. And I think that's a disconnect from the research they did to figure out what this service is, or how we design the service, or what this new product does and how it works. You would think that's built into the type of people who would find this useful, and it'd be a natural fit with marketing and say, this kind of helps the person who's overwhelmed at work and they got too many tools or too many tasks, and this tool would help them speed it up and it can help save X amount of money. But there seems a disconnect between product, research, marketing, sales enablement. So it really seems like this is something that should get a lot of attention to really hit home. Yeah, go ahead, Lindsey.
One of the biggest benefits that I ever found at one of my prior companies was I always got the information after the product was already created. All the messaging was, and I'm like, I don't understand it. Like, I don't know what we're doing with this. I don't know who we're trying to target. I don't know how this was created. I don't know how it was incepted. I don't know any of this information. And so one of the things that I used to almost beg for was, can I please be in this initial meeting when we talk about what we're going to create or what the people want? And I think one of the most important things that I learned was that having a seat at the table, whether you're sales, product, marketing, anything, have a seat at the table from the jump will help you down the line further than anything else in the world, just because you get to see it from the ground up. You get a seat at that table. You get to talk about what's happening out in the field. You get to participate to help that product build, and then it goes from there. So if I had any advice to anyone, and I am no expert by any means, but it's give your people a seat at the table. Put a representative from sales, put a representative from marketing, put a representative from product, your SDRs, like get a focus group together. What do we need to do? What does this product need to say? How do we need to say it? What does the market look like? Just do all that due diligence together. It's such a cool group to put together. And then you have all the research and the materials that you need to go to product, and you have all the answers and you've worked out all the kinks in the beginning.
I love that.
I do too.
That's the most radical. Wow. Feedback. Almost if these teams had an ability to communicate across teams with some type of magical technology and get together. It's still amazing. We're in 2025, and the people who built it might not necessarily know how it should be positioned. And all the way down the line, somebody like in the bar you saying is overhearing a pain point from a table, and they may not even realize their company makes a solution that helps solve it. And they go about their day and just missed the opportunity. They never saw it, never flagged anywhere, because the way they were trained was very, very staticky, or is very in-house. It wasn't, this going to help speed it up so you can get back to work faster because of X, Y, Z. So like there's a lot of opportunities for leaders here. And I almost think this is like a CEO imperative to really get on top of this. I keep seeing all these articles about how the CMOs need to be more integrated with the CEOs. And then the next article is the marketing dollars just got cut. And then the first ones that go before it hits sales. But if you think about all these pressure they put on the field teams to go sell more, sell more, sell more on one hand, the other hand is we have the greatest products, services, and people ever created, but nobody knows about it. And you're like, where's the disconnect coming from? And who's going to step out there, take the leadership position, and kind of get these teams working together? So they'll say we made something great, and the people who can use it know about it.
Right.
What a radical approach, huh? Like, who would ever want to use this
Mind blowing.
Yeah, it's like, oh my God. So, Lindsey, I know another trend is, as we wrap up here, is sometimes as they're cutting these marketing, internal marketing teams, a lot of times they'll go outside and hire people like Katherine and other companies. Do you see this more trending this way of just kind of getting expertise maybe on a shorter period of time as opposed to having maybe larger internal marketing teams?
The trend right now is fractional. There's a lot of fractional CMOs out there. There's a lot of fractional CROs, CEOs, all sorts of things to where they are coming in to make an immediate impact, and they do their job and then they move on. And this gives a lot of leeway for a company that may not have the dollars to bring in, no pun intended, Katherine.
Yeah. Out to Dutch.
to have the full-fledged, full-time CMO, but they can bring in somebody for a year or 6 months or whatever it is and give a consult on how things are happening. So I would say the trend is moving more towards fractional opportunities at the senior level. I think you still need your boots on the ground. I still think you need your marketing people in the office or on the, work from home, whatever it may be, to help run some of that back end stuff, and help them in that manner. But fractional is what I'm seeing and what I'm hearing. And I think smaller businesses could benefit from that. But I think larger businesses that are trying to scale, they definitely need a team on hand.
Nice. Fantastic, man. It's been a cool conversation. Any parting thoughts from your side, Katherine?
I mean, we've covered so much today. We could have talked for another hour. I mean, I think I would just remind people, have a bit of fun with what you're doing, a bit of creativity, and a bit of openness, because just like we were talking about earlier, you never know how long it's going to take to kind of keep building that brand, that trust with somebody. So keep just experimenting, have fun. Like Lindsey said, you need to build that relationship, and sometimes it can take a while from a branding perspective, from a personal perspective. So just keep at it, have fun.
I agree with that 100%. I used to call myself the manager of fun, and I think it needs to continue, and you have to enjoy what you're doing and just keep pushing. Try new things.
I love it. This has been a fun conversation as well. I like it. And I think our audience will appreciate that. So everything that the sellers out there in the world in this huge marketplace can do to make the experience just a little bit easier for people who need to consume, in our case, IT, to help consume all this technology they need to bring on board as fast as possible to help their businesses. They really appreciate this. So Lindsey and Katherine, appreciate your time today. It's been a fun and great conversation.
Thanks for having me.
Always love nerd talking with you, William and Lindsey. Really fun getting to know you better. So
yeah, thank you.
Alrighty.
All right, we're going to close out the show now. Until next time, have a great day.
Thanks for joining another episode of the Smart IT Podcast, where we explore what's next for IT and disrupt the status quo, simplify the complex, and reduce risk together. If you like what you hear, please like, subscribe, and leave your comments. And for more Smart IT wisdom, check out my website at williamreed.info.